Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Facebook. It's lovely to be here with you. I am live here in the Wellness Lounge, and it's Saturday evening, and it's November the 7th. And we're here again in another Saturday night in lockdown. And I'm just continuing on this week with the theme of honesty. And that kind of came to me this week because I was talking to somebody. I had quite a deep, meaningful conversation with someone about honesty in relationships with other people. And I decided to pick it as a topic this week because I found the conversation quite challenging. It's somebody that I'm open to having challenging conversations with, so it was a healthy level of challenge. Um, so welcome everybody. It's lovely to have you here. So hopefully you can stay with me for the next half an hour. We're just going to talk about honesty and what that means for you guys, and I'd love to see it in the comments as well. As we talk about this topic of different levels of honesty. What people are finding. I find that the levels of honesty have to start and come from within myself, and I have found that over the last number of years. Hi, Grania. Um, so, like a lot of you here, I've been on a personal development journey, for quite a while. So in my early 20s, I found kind of a spiritual pathway, for living life, and I've followed that ever since. And I've just found that over the years, my levels of honesty have had to deepen, because I've realized that I'm a master of self deception. It could be on a small thing or a big thing. And I've had to be, really, really have to hold myself accountable and be really honest with myself over the years about different behaviors and areas of my life that I really wanted to work on, that were causing me problems. A lot of that kind of presented or manifested itself in personal, close, intimate relationships. And that's what I was talking about this week, was the area of relationships, and the level of honesty that I allow myself to go to in these relationships, so I don't know if you guys can identify with this, so do please let me know if this is chiming in with you, because what I was talking about with this person was, um and Grania, yeah, it's a huge topic for you. So like I was talking to this person about being afraid to be 100% honest with people in a relationship, and when I explored that, I realized it was because I was afraid of them kind of not being okay with that. So I was afraid to be honest because it might cause conflict, and I try to avoid conflict. Hi, Deirdre, good to have you here. So I try to avoid conflict, so I don't be honest with the person, in case they, walk out the door on me or something. Like, it sounds crazy, but when I talked it through, like I realized, yeah, part of me doesn't go to that place of like pure honesty because I'm afraid of the response. I'm afraid of what people will say, and like I've started to notice that in relationships lately. Where do I do that? Where do I where do I withhold my honesty when I really would benefit from being more honest in the situation, whether for my benefit or for their benefit, And, I'm just wondering, do other people find that as well? Like that the more I go along this journey of personal development and I'm having to really look at myself, I'm realizing, God, yeah, I do that. I stay quiet to try and keep the peace sometimes, or I choose the kind of easier option of not saying something when it would be really worth actually having the conversation. Now, that's not all the time, but generally speaking, yeah, I found that. And when I was talking to this person, we were kind of saying that if you're not going to be honest, like when you need to be honest, then are you really having deep are you really having depth in your relationships? Or is it only ever going to be at a surface level because you're afraid to show and say what you really need to say? And is that fear holding you back from going into this deep level where, I've learned over the years that conflict is necessary and can actually be healthy. Like when you're in a relationship with someone, you're not going to agree with everything all the time, 100% of the time, whether it's an intimate relationship, mother, daughter, father, daughter, brother, sister, friends. We all have disagreements, and for me personally, I am still learning how to disagree and realize that, okay, because we have a disagreement doesn't mean that the relationship is going to fall apart. And that probably sounds quite childish, but I just realize as I'm going down through the years and really looking at myself, that is an area that I try and avoid is conflict, and it hasn't served me really, really well. But, with this journey of self-discovery, I've learned to not beat myself up. If I find an area that needs to be improved, that I just kind of go, okay, here's something that I need to look at, and how can I do that? One of the tools that I used years and years ago, I remember when I was doing like training courses in a company I worked in, and I'll post it on here afterwards. It's called the Johari window. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that. It's a model created by these two guys, Joe and Harry, and they created this model where basically what they say is that like we have four kind of aspects to our persona. One of them is like what is personally known to me and known to people who know me. Then I have it here actually. So I think that's our arena. So the arena is what is known to me and known to others. So it's what I allow people to know about me. Then we have what's called a blind spot. So what's not known to me, but other people can see about me, and that's the stuff that can be challenging as well for me, because the only way to kind of decrease your blind spot is to either ask for feedback, like ask people, how do you see me in these situations? How do I sound, and if people tell you, well, you kind of seem a bit defensive there, it's about being able to take on that feedback. So reducing down your blind spot is the kind of the aim of the game. And then we have a facade, so a hidden area that we know about ourselves, but other people don't know. And there's a huge amount of work, like Carl Jung has done his teachings on like the shadow side and the side of our personality maybe, and our behavior that we don't want people to know, that we don't want people to see. Maybe there's shame, there's guilt, maybe there's addictive behaviors, which I can certainly identify with. And it's about, again, looking at, okay, how can I reduce down this facade so that I don't feel like two different people, walking around in the world, that I don't feel I have, like an alter ego almost, that is something that I kind of feel ashamed about, and I don't know. So Tara, yeah, you've learned to be true to yourself with honesty, agree to disagree. Yeah, and until the time is ready to be open and discuss the situation again. Yeah, I think that's a brilliant thing to be able to do, because we all have triggers that send us into fight or flight mode, this fight, flight, or freeze response. And before we know it, we're saying things that we might regret, So one of the things, with this Johari window model, about receiving feedback, it's not always easy, that can be actually quite painful. Like especially for anyone that's ever been in therapy of any kind, who's had a therapist that is brave enough and skilled enough to be able to hold a mirror up, and show you how they see you and show you where your blind spots are. It can be very, very painful, but it's great work, that I'm doing a bit of that on myself at the moment. But what's interesting here as well about the Johari window model is that the fourth box is the unknown or our potential. Hi, Mick. Great to have you here. So it's what's not known to myself and what's not known to other people, obviously. So the beauty of all this, getting the feedback, reducing down the blind spot, having the kind of painful self realizations of, oh yeah, I do that. That's me under pressure. That's me when I'm stressed or whatever it is. And trying to embrace that shadow side, I suppose. And allowing that to come out into the light, and bring it out into the light and say, yeah, this is part of my personality, this is part of my persona. But it's not doesn't define me, and it doesn't have to define me. But how it will challenge me is if I try and push it down into the darkness and stuff it down, and don't bring it out and talk about it and get maybe help, professional help. And what the beauty of all that is then is that we get our potential gets greater and greater the more of this old, maybe not useless behavior, but because it did serve us, and it has, all of our behaviors have a purpose. One of the parts of NLP training, is that behind every behavior or action is a positive intent. So even, anyone that has suffered with addiction issues, or that, the addict behind every, sip of alcohol, whatever it is, whatever the drug of choice is, or, sex, money, spending, gambling, behind each of those, addictions is some kind of need to be at peace. And, that's the positive intention behind it. Now, obviously, addictions cause chaos in everybody's lives, but it's, I think, trying to find a way to be at peace in the world without having to have an active addiction in play is kind of the key to all recovery programs. I was listening to Russell Brand during the week. He's in recovery, and he talks about all of his addictions. He talks about drink, drugs, and sex. He had a sex addiction. And I just find it really interesting. He talks very openly about, what he needs to avoid to maintain his wellness and his sobriety. And he talks about, obviously abstaining from drink and drugs and not objectifying people sexually. I really like his honesty around that. I think he's doing great work there. So yeah. So honesty for me has been an evolving concept. I would love to hear from people as to what their levels of honesty have been like over the years, and obviously as we mature, maybe we're able for more depth and more honesty, but the light bulb moment for me this week that I wanted to share with you was that conversation I had where, the person pointed out to me that if I'm afraid to be honest, which I was saying I was in a certain situation, because I didn't want an argument. And I thought if there was an argument, that, this childlike belief inside me somewhere is that, if I argue with this person, they're going to walk away from me and they're going to leave me. That was actually what was going on subconsciously. I wasn't thinking that consciously, I was avoiding being truly, really, really honest and saying what I needed to say, because that was the deep down belief. I don't want to rock the boat. I need to keep the peace. I don't want to upset anybody. Which can be dressed up sometimes as being nice, but being nice at what cost, though? At what price? We need to look at that. Sure, look, I'll leave it off. But what are you stuffing down as a result? I had to ask myself that. What happened in that relationship when I wasn't honest, and a lot happened, like it was very destructive in that relationship when I wasn't being true to myself and speaking up for myself. And it wasn't fair to the other person because they didn't have the full picture of what was going on in my mind because I wasn't saying it, so hopefully this is making sense. I know I'm talking kind of a little bit generally around that. We've all had, I presume, situations where we felt we could have probably have done ourselves a bit more justice by being a bit more honest. So it comes back to me about, we spoke months ago here in the Wellness Lounge about living a life of purpose and finding out what my values are. And for anyone that's only coming on here now and that's new, I would recommend that you go back over the content that I shared in March, April time, and there's a section on values and living a life of values. And I have, worksheets in there, there's videos. So if you have nothing else to do, feel free to have a look at that. Because it comes back to me to what is my purpose. And I whittled it down very, very simply. My purpose is actually to be peaceful and happy, and that's, I know it might sound a bit selfish, like I'm not here to save the world, but I think if I have peace in my mind, then I can have, maybe bring peace to other relationships and have a peaceful home, but it has to come from within me first. So my purpose in life is to have peace in my mind. And that sounds maybe easy, but it's not, because as I said earlier, I have all this old programming, and we all do, like all this conditioning. What prevents me from being honest in relationships? What prevents me from being vulnerable? What are my blind spots? What can other people see about me that I can't see about myself? And what happens when I have a blind spot that's revealed to me? If I'm like going to therapy, or if I'm asking people to help me and they're saying, well, this is how I see you. How do I respond to that? Do I get defensive? With all of the above has happened for me, at different times. But I like having these real conversations here, I just, there's so much out there now on social media, and there's so many different, I have it on my Instagram feed, I'm guilty of just sitting scrolling on my phone sometimes, and I'm really trying to be conscious of what I'm feeding my mind. Because there's a lot of stuff out there at the moment that wouldn't be hugely helpful for me and my mental state and where I'm at the moment. So I'm really kind of conscious of what am I feeding my mind, and what's the truth of the matter here. And thanks, Katrina, recommending the value sessions. Yeah, so we did do some kind of foundation work early on in lockdown that I would recommend. So, and just message me here if you can find it, or anything you need more information. I'd be more than happy to help you with that. There's loads of free stuff here in the Wellness Lounge. So yeah, and Tara is talking about being in autopilot. That's what happens when we're stressed. We have a physiological response to stress in our body, and also the emotional and mental response, and some of it can be about going into autopilot. So hi Jackie, thanks. It's lovely to have you here as well. And yeah, I'm just on here to be honest. You're saying loving the honesty. I felt compelled to kind of share more of my story here with people, after realizing, in the second lockdown, that maybe people need support and need some real talk. And I just feel if I can, be of support, or when I listen to somebody that I can identify with, it makes me think, okay, I'm not alone, and maybe people out there need to feel that. That sometimes we look on social media and it looks like people have it all together, and really, like, all we're trying to do here in lockdown is get through this a day at a time, and do the best we can do and be the best we can be in any given day. And sometimes that goes better than others, like personally for me, being honest here, I was really struggling at the start of the other lockdown. I was dealing with, the breakup of a relationship that I found extremely difficult. And what I have found this time around is, with persistence, the morning routine that I was really struggling with the first time around is just coming like so much more naturally to me now. All the amazing little habits that I built for myself are coming easier. I'm finding it easier to look after myself. Although, I do sometimes kind of feel like I might be missing out, a lot of my friends are single in this lockdown as well, and I know they feel the same. It can be hard, people do feel like a level of loneliness, even though I don't live alone. I have my daughter here and she's great company, so I am blessed to have that, and I do realize that. And I have family nearby as well. We're all here in Shannon, so we're able to see each other. But sometimes the mind, can look at, well, what I don't have instead of what I do have, and one of the things, I was talking to my dad recently, and he's over 70, he's fit and well and healthy, thank God, but he was saying, he kind of summed it up for me. He's like, we just need to count our blessings, and he's finding it hard. He lives alone, like he was widowed in his 50s, so I do sometimes feel that, lockdown, being single, all my single friends, we have these conversations about how are you going to meet someone? Like, what is it? Online? Is that the only way? And I just find, for me, it comes back to honesty and living a life of purpose and values. And what aligns to my values? Can I make things work for me in a way that I don't feel like I'm selling myself short, or that I'm compromising my values? If I'm compromising my values, I'll feel conflict. I'll feel conflicted. There'll be mental conflict. I won't, my gut might be trying to tell me something. My body will tell me, and I think now that we're slowed down, we just need to listen to ourselves a bit more and really figure out, like, how do I live this life of purpose and what serves me well. So on that, I just wanted to share with you the lesson 257 from A Course in Miracles, which I'm reading on a daily basis, as I've shared here. I don't know if any of you are doing that or have read it, but I find the work really, really, really helpful for me. But I just want to share this lesson because it's really on topic. Lesson 257. Let me remember what my purpose is. If I forget my goal, I can be but confused, unsure of what I am, and thus conflicted in my actions. No one can serve contradicting goals and serve them well, nor can he function without deep distress and great depression. Let us therefore be determined to remember what we want today, that we may unify our thoughts and actions meaningfully, and achieve only what God would have us do this day. So what this is talking about is serving two masters, and being conflicted mentally and emotionally. And what this book says here is that a person can't function like that because they will have deep distress and great depression. And I do believe that, I just feel if we don't find out what's causing our distress or our sadness, we're going to be living a life of conflict, and I've had to do a lot of work around that in my life, finding out, if I'm not happy, why am I not happy? What am I doing in my life? And how can I resolve that? And sometimes it hasn't been like a quick fix. I'm all about, oh, can I just fix it now? Like sometimes it's about actually, getting help, getting outside help, getting coaching, counseling, psychotherapy, other groups and programs. Like, that's been my life and that's been my journey. Like I haven't got to where I am today, which is, I'm just a normal functioning member of society without a lot of help. I have amazing friends. I have a lot of, support groups and networks in my life. I take the help that I need, and I'm not afraid to ask for help, so, and I still have work to do. I had that conversation this week with that person who pointed out to me, if you can't do honesty, then you're not doing depth. You're not being deep in your relationships. And I just thought, okay, they have a point, and I've been looking at that this week. Where am I hiding from myself? What am I trying to do? Like, where am I fooling myself? So yeah, I want to just come on and talk about honesty. And thank you guys for sharing your comments and sharing the love. I will be here over lockdown, so Saturday night kind of is my evening for coming on here. If anyone has any topics or any questions or anything you'd like me to help cover, um, like I said, I've spent a couple of decades in the area of personal development. My business is around coaching, training, facilitation, around change management, helping people to change. And my life has been a constant process of change. Some of it has been easy and some of it has been extremely painful and difficult, just to get me to where I am today, you know. So just going to finish by reading the lesson again. So let me remember what my purpose is. So maybe after today, you can just have a think, you know, reflect before you go on about your whatever you're doing this evening. So if you are listening, I'd invite you just to relax for a minute, maybe close your eyes and just listen and see what these words do for you. Lesson 257, let me remember what my purpose is. If I forget my goal, I can but be confused, unsure of what I am, and thus conflicted in my actions. No one can serve contradicting goals and serve them well, nor can he function without deep distress and great depression. Let us therefore be determined to remember what we want today, that we may unify our thoughts and actions meaningfully and achieve only what God would have us do this day. And remembering when we're talking about, if I'm talking about God or mention God here, it's a all-inclusive, non-religious God, you know, the universe, fairies, angels, science, quantum physics, whatever works for you. But just that power that is greater than your little self, your small self. Thanks, Pamela. Lovely to have you here as well. So guys, I'm gonna wish you well for the week. It's absolutely fabulous to have you here as always. Sending you lots of blessings, lots of love, and I will talk to you all soon. Thanks, Orla. See you soon, guys. Bye for now.